All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're jumping into a really powerful and, let's be honest, pretty radical idea from the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. He asked a huge question: what if the world has no meaning built into it? But his answer wasn't despair. It was actually something totally different.
So, think about the big systems we've built to make sense of the world: religion, science, politics. Nietzsche looked at these and made a really bold claim. He said they're actually false redemptions. Basically, they're selling us comforting stories to shield us from a truth that might be, well, a little terrifying.
So first things first, let's break down the problem he saw. Nietzsche argued that our entire culture was leaning on these massive pillars for meaning, and he thought each one was built on a pretty shaky foundation.
He basically pointed to three main culprits. First, you've got religion, with its promise of a better world after this one. Then there's science, which kind of guarantees we can eventually figure everything out and control nature. And finally, utopian ideals, the promise of a perfect society just around the corner. He said all three are basically selling the same thing: an escape from the horror of existence.
But here's the catch. This comfort isn't free. Nietzsche believed that when we buy into these illusions, we pay what he called an exorbitant price. We're basically trading an authentic, real experience of life for a comforting lie. And he saw this as leading our whole culture into a kind of deception, a darkness.
And this, right here, sets up the core conflict in his philosophy. On one side, you have these false redemptions that tell you to look away from reality. But on the other side, Nietzsche holds up art as the only honest answer, because it's the only thing that's brave enough to stare right into the void and not flinch.
Okay, so if art is the answer, how does that even work? I mean, how can a song or a painting possibly be a better response to a meaningless universe than, say, faith or reason?
You know, what's so interesting is that art's power actually comes from what it doesn't do. Unlike religion or politics, it doesn't promise you a perfect world or eternal salvation. The whole thing starts from an honest place, admitting that, hey, there are no easy answers here.
Art doesn't try to sugarcoat things or pretend life isn't cruel and chaotic. Instead, it finds something beautiful right there, in the middle of the mess. It creates what Nietzsche called comforting terror. It finds solace within the struggle, not by running away from it. It's about seeing tragedy and finding it beautiful.
So, if art is our weapon against the void, who's the hero of this story? Well, for Nietzsche, it's not a priest or a scientist or a politician. It's the artist, but not the kind of artist you might be picturing.
Now, you might think his ideal artist is some wise, rational, super mature adult, right? Nope, it's the complete opposite. For Nietzsche, the true artist is way more like a rebellious child, someone who sees the world with totally unfiltered eyes, is driven by raw impulse, and pushes back against all the rules that try to box them in. And what looks like immaturity to the rest of us is actually the artist's greatest superpower. That childlike way of seeing things lets them exist both inside our reality and outside of it at the same time. It gives them a kind of clarity that we tragically mature adults tend to lose. So, we have our hero, the artist. What's in their toolkit? What weapons do they actually use to challenge the old ways of thinking and create something new in a world without meaning? Well, Nietzsche gives us a couple of really powerful ones. The first tool is laughter. Seriously. What he called the ironic turn. It's all about using humor and irony to tear down the pompous, self-important seriousness of everything we're told we have to take seriously. Morality, tradition, the whole shebang. It's about learning to see just how absurd our most sacred beliefs can be.
But, and this is a big but, Nietzsche knew this is way harder than it sounds. It takes a huge amount of strength to genuinely laugh at yourself and the systems you were raised to believe in. He saw it as an absolutely essential skill for breaking free.
Okay, the second tool is one of his most famous and maybe his most misunderstood concepts, the will to power. Now, let's just get this out of the way right now. This has nothing to do with dominating other people or grabbing political power. That is a total misreading of what he meant.
It's really an internal drive. The will to power is that creative force inside you that pushes you to grow, to get better, to transcend your own limits. It's not a will to have power over other people. It's the will to achieve power over yourself. So let's bring this all home. If you've got this rebellious artist perspective and you're using these powerful tools, what's the ultimate goal? I mean, where does this all actually lead?
See, the end game here isn't for everyone to go out and become a painter or a musician. It's about something way bigger. It's about taking that artist mindset and applying it to your own life. It's about turning your own existence into your greatest work of art.
And there's kind of a path to doing this. It happens in a few steps. First, you learn to see the world with that artist's distance. Then, you let go of the idea that there's one single ultimate truth. From there, you can start to actively create your own interpretations, your own values, until finally, you're living your life as an ongoing act of creation.
And in the end, this is Nietzsche's radical answer. Life doesn't need some grand purpose given to it by a god or discovered by science. Its meaning, its entire justification, is found in its own beauty, its own tragedy, and in the act of its own creation.
Which really leaves us with a final, pretty provocative question to think about. When it comes to our own lives, are we just passively following a script that someone else wrote for us? Or are we actively picking up the artist's tools and creating a life that is truly our own?